This is the Journey Podcast. We highlight the journeys of our guests, where they've been, where they are now, and where they are going. Let's join them on their journey. Welcome to the Journey Podcast. Today, I am so excited to be joined by Madhukar. She is also known as the Marketing Nomad. She is self-described as a quirky digital entrepreneur, which I just think that gives her so many awesome creative ideas. If you look at her channel, if you look at any of her social media feeds, just so creative, has some wonderful things. I'm glad that she's here with us to talk about her business that she owns and has such a great passion for marketing, a zest for life, and you can really see that through her creativity. She's also a podcaster, so I'm glad to have her on with us today. She's a top 100 podcaster in marketing for India. She comes to us from India, so I'm really excited to have that piece of international, another one of our international guests that we've had here on the Journey podcast. She's got a great YouTube channel. She's got an Etsy shop she owns. You need to go check these things out. She's also an author. She's got some Skillshare lessons out there. She's a teacher and a nano influencer. She's going to tell us what nano influencer means because that's what she does. But she's the CEO of the Marketing Nomad LLC. This is a global consultancy firm that's based in Delaware, US, correct?
Yes.
But she's not in Delaware. So I love that. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too. And she has helped over 60 plus clients from 8 different countries as of 2022. And as a location independent, so she's a nomad, don't forget that as we talk about her. She's a marketing strategy consultant, and she empowers business owners to confidently implement long-term marketing strategies to grow the businesses they love. And I just love that she loves helping other businesses grow their business. So Prit, thanks for being with us today. Tell us about your business, The Marketing Nomad.
Oh, yeah. Well, Nate, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's absolute honor and such a privilege. I'm super excited to be on your podcast and share my journey, share some tips with your listeners. So a little bit about my company. Well, I am the Marketing Nomad, and I set up my company while I was in India in the middle of a pandemic. So my company is in Delaware, USA. It's called the Marketing Nomad LLC. And basically, it is a global marketing consultancy firm where I help small business owners, entrepreneurs implement their long-term marketing strategies, which are actionable, which are practical, wow, English, practical and simple.
Even English people can't speak English.
Well, yeah, to be very honest with you, Nate, English is actually my first language. I grew up in Singapore.
Okay.
And yeah, English is actually my first
English
language.
first speakers, we kill the language more than anybody.
Absolutely. I'll be saying one sentence and then suddenly it goes off to something else and I'll be like, okay, what is wrong with me? Let's refocus kind of. Yeah, but yeah. That's how it is. And a little bit more about my company. Well, it allows me to be location independent, which is something that I love, and it was really important for me as a marketer, as someone who's really passionate about traveling as well.
And I also want to mention for our audience, I really appreciate Prit being here because it's a 9.5 hour difference between us. And she worked for my schedule. I didn't really ask anything special. She jumped right on. So it's after midnight where she's joining us today, and I'm really appreciative of that. But it's the type of service that she's offering to her clients. She still wants to work in the U.S. That leads us to this next point I have here. You told me some of these challenges you had because of the pandemic, not due to sickness, but you were actually living here in the States at the time.
Yes.
And you were working here and you got sent home. And
Yes.
It kind of killed everything that you were doing here, because if you're location dependent and then you can't work in that location, you're kind of out of a job. So how'd you overcome these obstacles to kind of make a comeback? And now you have 60 plus clients and you have a business located in Delaware, even though you're not in Delaware. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so basically I completed my MBA in a university upstate. So that was Rochester Institute of Technology. So when you're an international student, you basically get 1 year of optional practical training. It's called OPT. And of course, as the name suggests, it's optional. And after you get that 1 year of training, you are allowed to convert that student visa into a work visa, which is called the H-1B visa. So I got a fantastic job on Long Island. It was a top solar firm. Great job as a marketer, great company, great colleagues. Everything was amazing. And my employer, they were willing to sponsor my work visa as well. So in February of 2019, yes, 2019, my employer applied for the H-1B visa. For those of you who may not know, the H-1B work visa, it's kind of a lottery. I mean, it's not kind of, it is a lottery. And there are only 85,000, I guess, applications that are picked out of, in the year that I applied, there were 201,000 applications. Wow. So 85,000 out of 201,000 applications. It's of course increased now over the years, like the number of applications. But in 2019, this was the official numbers given by the USCIS. So yes, it did not get processed. It was absolutely heartbreaking because I'm there. I finally figured my life out. I had a full-time job. I found my passion. And suddenly the reality that I thought I was going to live was no longer there. I had to leave a place that I had called home for 3 years. And New York is really special to me because it was a place that I found myself. So emotionally speaking, I was very attached to New York. I still am very attached to New York, actually. So I had to leave the country. And it was around this time, I was given about 2.5 months of stay in the country to wrap things up before moving back to India. And during that time, I was sitting around, I was really sad. I was in pain, I was in anguish. I was really frustrated with life as well, angry with my fate. And around that time, I thought, well, I have two options over here. One, start applying to full-time jobs, put my resume on LinkedIn and go the normal route. Or since I was already at ground zero, why not I start something on my own? I'd always planned to start something on my own about 10 years down the line. But I thought maybe with all of this confusion, I think I just owe it to myself to start from scratch. And I would try it for a year. If it didn't work out, it didn't work out. And then I could always go back to applying for full-time jobs. That was always an option that was existing. So deep breath because it was really painful. That entire phase was quite painful for me. And then in all of that heartbreak, I saw kind of a glimmer of hope, and I said, okay, I'll start this journey. Let me try it out. And within 7-8 months of trying out, I put my profiles on freelance platforms. I'd started my social media pages, and then I'd sort of gotten into the groove of being a freelancer, being a digital entrepreneur. And it was around that time that things started working out for me. And just around that time, vaccines were announced as well. This was in the middle of the pandemic. So the vaccines were announced. So just before the vaccines were announced, businesses weren't sure if their business would be open 6-7 months down the line. So nobody was willing to invest in a marketing person, basically. They just wanted to make sure that they were conserving all of their resources at the moment. And the minute the vaccines were announced, I think there was a bit of hope in the entire world, right? And so people started looking very optimistic. They started planning out their resources. And it was around that time that the entire world had gone digital because of the pandemic. So businesses now had to switch from being like a brick and mortar to everything online. Their marketing, everything needed to get back online. And so that's when I came in. So I guess in a lot of ways, I was at the right time and at the right place and doing the right thing as well. And that's how it all clicked. And then August 2020, after a year of my digital entrepreneurship journey, while I was still in India with the pandemic still going on, lockdowns everywhere, I set up my company in Delaware. And the reason why I did that was because for me, there are two passions that I follow. One is marketing and one is traveling. I mean, that's why I named myself the Marketing Nomad. And I wanted to make sure that throughout the course of my entrepreneurial or business journey, I was going to cater to these two passions. So even though it was in the middle of the pandemic and travel was not allowed, I could foresee that in the future, that was the vision that I had. And that's what led to me, and over time, setting up various platforms. I set up my YouTube channel, my podcast, and I came on Etsy. I started selling digital products to solopreneurs and small business owners. Then I uploaded like a class on Skillshare just to teach more people. Basically, my mission, Nate, is to make sure that solopreneurs and small business owners out there are confidently implementing marketing strategies, because despite having an MBA with the concentration in marketing, I found it really hard to start from scratch. The resources that were out there were not practical or actionable. And I was starting from scratch. I'd put all my savings when I first started out, and that wasn't much. I only had like a year of work experience. And with somebody living in New York City, I mean, that was not at all. I mean, you can imagine, you can't really save much in a city like that, right? So
It's got quite a higher cap of living
yes,
expenses needed in that city as
yes,
compared to other
absolutely.
parts of the US.
Absolutely. I could see like a drastic difference between Rochester and New York City.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. It was crazy. And I was like, it was such a cultural shock for me to move from Rochester to Long Island. And like I think at Valley Stream, which was like 10-15 minutes from New York City by the LIRR. Anyway, so basically 1 year of savings was not enough compared to the marketing strategies that were out there on the internet, because they said you needed huge funding or you needed a lot of investment up front, which was something that I did not have. I was broke, to be very honest with you. I was. And so I was really frustrated. And through my journey of learning and implementing my own marketing strategies, I decided to put those out there for people to learn as well.
And thanks so much for sharing that. I think it's important for our audience to hear that, because we have a lot of solopreneurs, we have a lot of small business owners who are a part of our audience. And I just think of them, of how hard you look at even, somebody who's been at it like myself, 6-7 years, like, oh, he's so successful. I'm like, I've had the same struggles you have. It just, you have to wake up every day and just say, I'm gonna do this thing. And that's what you've had to do. You was like, I'm gonna do this thing. And and you can tell us a little bit more about this, but I can only imagine, if I was sitting here in my city, in my town, say, I'm doing business with people in a completely other country, be like, is that a real business? Like, I'm sure you get like those things. Like, are you really working? Like, how are you actually making
Yes.
money? Like, what are you doing sitting in front of this camera all day? And I'm sure you have that kind of that feedback coming to you.
Yeah, of course.
And, just say you have to prove to yourself, like you have to sell to yourself more than anything else. And you mentioned this a little bit about traveling, but one of my questions is, so you say you're the marketing nomad. So are you nomadic, and where are you traveling off to next?
So basically, I actually just finished my travel bit for the year. I was in Hyderabad for a few days. I was in Mumbai. So I'm traveling locally at the moment, but I do want to start going overseas probably later this year. Right now, my focus is my book is coming out very soon in August. So it's more about focusing on my launch and focusing on getting everything ready for the book launch. And then after that, I'm definitely taking a vacation, because it has been so stressful publishing this book. Yeah.
Well, you have some incredible places to travel to in your country.
Yes.
I'll say,
Yes,
haven't had a chance to get there yet. I will soon. So watch out.
Absolutely.
So what's one thing in business so far? You've had the business since August of 2020. So you're right at about 2 years. What's one thing that's happened that you didn't expect to happen?
I think how much of this journey was on me to figure out. I think that was very unexpected. And that's coming from someone whose both parents are entrepreneurs themselves. Both my parents are entrepreneurs. Both of them are business owners, and they're very transparent in the struggles that they've been through all of those dining table conversations. So I walked into this journey very well aware of how things could go. And I knew, the success rate and all of those things. So I was pretty well informed. And for me to be shocked at how much of those decisions were on me, that was a little bit unsettling, because it's like, I'm sure you will agree with this, Nate. Okay, when do I upload this episode? What is the frequency? It's all about the small decisions that snowball into the bigger decisions. Which platform do I get on? Every single decision is on you. And it's really hard to figure out, especially during the initial stages, if you're doing the right thing or not. Imposter syndrome's there. You've got limiting beliefs. There's just so many things coming in your way. And in a lot of ways, I think understanding that I needed to first change myself, my mindset, was another thing that I guess was a bit shocking for me. I thought, yeah, I could totally do this. And then I was like, no, there's so many steps that you need to take even before you set up a business. And that is changing yourself and becoming the person who is capable of running a business like this.
Yeah, it definitely is a mental game. It's just a physical game of getting up. You could go read all the blogs, go watch all the videos and stuff. And I'm going to talk all this stuff about financial stuff, which, don't get me wrong, it's important, but that's like one small piece of the puzzle.
Yes,
so they have so many other things, because I don't care if you have all the money to work with. I still don't think that's enough to keep you doing what it takes. So at least that's what I've learned in talking to other entrepreneurs. It's just one small piece about it. So speaking about marketing, you do a lot of marketing for other businesses, solopreneurs, as we already discussed. And I'm sure clients, prospects come to you with crazy things that they think that you can do, or magic that you can, wield over them. What's a common thread or a common myth that people ask you to do things for them that you're like, that's not anything that I have to do with? What is that?
Oh yeah, that's such an important question, because this is something that recurs so many times. And that is, I have had potential customers coming up to me and asking me to help them go viral. And I have to let them know that that's not, first of all, that's not what marketing was intended to even be. Going viral has its own repercussions, and it's basically all the factors that combine, and with a lot of luck there too. So I usually tell them that my strategies are long-term. They are pretty steady growth. It may be slow, but it is steady. And I do not aim for viral content, because the problem with viral content is sometimes it is very difficult to sustain that. As much as possible, you want to make sure that you are having a steady growth, you are having a healthy growth, and not just that, your engagement is pretty steady, like it's pretty solid engagement. So when you are in that zone, I think people get confused and they say, oh, we just want to go viral. And I say, it doesn't work like that. Marketing is a very slow process, and it is worth it. It pays off in the end, but you've got to put in that time and that investment to get there. So that is one misconception that a lot of people have.
Well, I can't wait until this episode goes viral, though. Okay, so that was the whole reason I had you on here, man.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
That was so. Oh wow, that's fine. I would agree with that. Consistency is really related to real growth in real customer acquisition. Because I could care less if I get 100,000 views of people who really aren't our clients anyways, because I think we're funny.
Absolutely.
That's one thing. But looking at it from a business owner standpoint, we need to see real dollars and cents in our bank account so we can pay our bills and pay our employees and continue to do what we're doing. So what's the point of being viral? So tell me, what's the biggest challenge you're facing in business right now?
The biggest challenge, I think, not just for me, but for every business owner, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, Nate, is sustaining the success that you have. I think sustaining the success long enough for you to use it as a stepping stone for the next success is one thing that I find challenging. And I think a lot of people don't understand that sustaining success is a skill. it's amazing that you get to this point, but you've got to make sure that there are different strategies in place to make sure that that sustains long enough for you to use that as a step for your next success. So that is what I find challenging, because every sustaining success part of your job, it's hard. It's really hard. It involves different strategies, very complex. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not work. So you have to start all over again from scratch. And I think it's a lot of mindset shift as well, because once you find a bit of success, you immediately relax. But it's not supposed to be that way. You're supposed to be on alert. You're supposed to make sure that you can sustain that. And I think that getting out of that relaxed mode and continuing to be in the mode that I've got to still continue this, I've got to still keep going, is a little bit hard for me. And I'm sure a lot of other business owners out there as well.
Yeah, I think that's got to be something that's different for every business model as well.
Yes, absolutely.
What is sustained success? I always think like,
100%, yep.
If you've watched the Journey podcast for any amount of time, I'm not a retail guy. I don't like retail. There's a reason I don't like that business model, but we've had some guests on who love the retail model. And that's one of the ones where I find it's hard for me to sustain success in. I've tried it, don't love it. I like the model that I have. Obviously, that's why I have it, which is probably as similar to yours. I'm sure you're looking to get retained clients for ongoing income, because that helps you I sold this one time, I sold the relationship, I can have it for a while.
Absolutely.
Take that success, that financial success, that win of that client, and take it to the next level. And that's the type of business model I like. And there's other models that I don't particularly love, because it's hard for me to sustain success in that. And other people love that challenge. So I totally understand that. And it's just like looking at those different strategies and how do we do that? You've kind of got a little bit of both going on, because you've got the Etsy shop, you've got the Skillshare. So it's a little bit more retail too. So how are you bridging the gap, and how are you getting sustained success in some of those areas that maybe it's just me, but I think those are more challenging to sustain success in those areas?
It is definitely more challenging because, one, I'm a digital entrepreneur, so there is no face-to-face contact with me. So it's a lot harder for me to gain that initial trust. And especially in the beginning, when I set up my Etsy shop, people didn't know who I was. I had absolutely no followers on Instagram or on any of the other platforms, maybe 300 followers. That's pretty much it. So I think even building to like 100 sales and then sustaining that momentum was a challenge for me. But here's what I've come to understand by experience is that you have to understand that each platform, each product will have its own strategies to sustain it. So you've got to give it that amount of time to think about it. And you can't just say, oh, Etsy, the whole platform, I've got 7 products, I'm going to use the same strategy for all of them. It doesn't work that way. I actually have individual strategies for each of the products that I have put up there. And that's how I get the whole wheel to turn. And same for Skillshare, same for maybe my YouTube or even my marketing consultancy firm. So each of those have their own strategies. Each of those products or services in the platform have their own strategies. And that level of personalization and customization is important. You need to dedicate that amount of time for that.
Sounds like a lot of work. Maybe you need a marketer to help you with that if you're a listener. So tell me what you think the most important lesson you've learned in your career.
I think in my career, I think what I've understood is rejection is redirection. That has been the most important lesson, especially with the whole H-1B work visa process. If I had to go through it again, Nate, I think I would. I know, as painful as it was, like there were days where I could not even get out of bed, as painful as everything was. Where it has led me today is unimaginable. I don't think the 20-year-old me could have looked at me like 10 years from now, this is where I would be. I don't think I could have ever imagined that. So rejection is redirection. And I think that's a way that I have managed to stay positive throughout the entire ordeal. And also many of the lows that come with this journey, and many, many, many will come with this journey as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one barrier that I love that digital has really knocked down. So, looking at like sales, your market is the world, and there's
Mhm.
this number might have changed. I remember last count was like 7 billion people. That's a lot of
Yes,
opportunities of people to work with, to connect with. You're never going to connect with them all. And I just think it's a big win to have those digital assets in place to be able to say, there's different strategies to match different people and different models.
yes,
And I think it's such a win, and you can be very successful with just 60 clients. You can be very successful with just
absolutely.
20 clients. It all depends
Yes.
on your model and what you do. And I think that's a huge win. But tell me, in your opinion, because I've really come to the belief that not everybody can be an entrepreneur just because not everybody has the personality strength to do it. And that's okay. If you're not an entrepreneur, I want you to feel very comfortable as a journey listener. You can do very well. Go team up with an entrepreneur because we have a lot of weaknesses as well that we need help with.
Yes.
So what personality strength do you think somebody would need to be an entrepreneur, and specifically an entrepreneur in the marketing world?
So for entrepreneurs, one thing I've realized is by meeting so many entrepreneurs in the last 3 years of my journey, is that we have certain behavioral traits, behavioral patterns that overlap. And I think that's from our childhood. I think it's very instinctual that we are drawn to this field, whether that is maybe um, that thirst for having a life of passion, for wanting more out of life. Not many people have that kind of thirst. A lot of people, and that's completely okay. It's just that we were there was a little bit of a different thought process that maybe an incident in our childhood that led us to think differently. But I believe fundamentally that there are a lot of behavioral patterns that overlap with entrepreneurs. And I think the most important strength for entrepreneurs is resilience.
I
This journey is hard. It is freaking hard, and
I
you need
agree.
to be as resilient as possible.
And you got to surround yourself with other entrepreneurs. And I
Yes,
get so excited when I meet other
yes,
entrepreneurs, and we click like almost
yes,
instantly. Like we get it, we
yes,
get the struggle. It's like a
yes,
mental game. And I just
yes,
love hanging out with other entrepreneurs because we don't take it personally, because it's just like, yeah,
yeah.
you're having a bad day. We've had a bad day. I get it. It's just nice to find that class that we're the same. And it is kind of a rare thing, and we're weird. And
We are.
I throw
I
myself under the
believe
bus as
that.
weird. Yes.
I do believe that. I mean, I say that with a lot of love, okay? But I definitely have been the odd duck all my life until I became an entrepreneur. And then I was like, there I fit, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
I guess that's how it is with us entrepreneurs. Like, whether it is, even if you were the most popular girl in school, which I was, but that's still being an odd duck,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
You're still different. You're still weird. And I keep telling this to people, like, I did not know where to fit in until I became an entrepreneur. And then the minute I became an entrepreneur, I started looking at other entrepreneurs and I'm like, oh, that person's like me. And then you find those similar traits and you start to feel like, okay, here's a community of people who are like me. I'm not the odd duck anymore. And that's such a validating feeling, I guess. I'm so happy to talk about this.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. I felt the same way. Like I worked a lot of other jobs before this, and somebody came to me at one point and they said, "Well, you've worked a lot of jobs. I just don't know how consistent you are. If we can like sign
Yeah.
up with your service." And I was like, "You don't know what an entrepreneur's journey is like. Like we keep like trying to convince ourselves like we're supposed to
Yes.
be like everybody else, and eventually
Yes.
we just get convinced that
Yeah.
it's time to make the leap, as
Yes.
scary as it is, and then it works really well. And I'm like, that's just every entrepreneurial's journey. I don't know any
I think
entrepreneur
so.
that held this super long job and had this, career.
Mm.
Like they have to go do that thing.
Yes,
They
it is.
have
It's
to.
very instinctual. Yes, very instinctual.
So on that topic was, what is one piece of advice you would give an entrepreneur starting out?
Okay, my advice is if you find something that you are passionate about, and trust me, not a lot of people are lucky enough to find something that they are passionate about. Either they don't believe that they can lead a life of passion, or they don't allow themselves to feel that kind of passion or to expect more from life. So if you're one of the lucky few to have found something that you are passionate about, I think that you owe it to yourself to see it through. I really think that you owe it to yourself to see how it can transform your life, because it will. Regardless of whether this is a success or a failure, it will transform your life for the better. And that's what I truly believe. And that is the truth of my life as well.
That's really good advice. It'd be very similar that I would give to somebody myself, and maybe I can give you a little bit more. Want to validate you in that, because sometimes you think, well, I've only been doing it 2 years. I've been doing it just slightly longer, but I would give the same advice. So I would say what you're saying is true, whether or not you need my validation, not for the audience. What she's saying, I would give you the same advice if that gives any kind of clout to it. I think it's so important, but we can't do it alone. So you spoke about your parents. That sounds like some great mentors there. Can you speak to your parents or other mentors who has been mentoring you through this process?
So my parents definitely, they have not provided any financial support, but emotional support, oh, tons of it. And I think that we kind of look at the term self-made millionaire or self-made entrepreneur, and we have such a misconception that that means that we have to do this journey on ourselves. And I think that was one of the mindset that I had to unlearn, that you don't have to do this journey by yourself. You can ask for help. You can take help when people are willing to give you, as long as the people are good, of course. You've got to have some discretion over there. But for me, my parents, my sister, amazing emotional support. And, it's in the little things, Nate. When I'm recording something, my mom, she'll kind of silence everyone in the house. She'll be like, "Shh, she's recording, don't make noise." It's those little things that really help you. And then my dad, all I have to say is, "Papa, something's not working out." And that's it. Being an entrepreneur, I know how busy he is, and he will just let everything go. And he'll like, "Okay, come here, sit with me. Let's talk this out." It's those kind of little things that really, I think we need as entrepreneurs, because one, this is a very lonely journey. It is absolutely lonely, but it is only lonely because you make it lonely. I hope that sentence makes sense. Because yeah, it does. So I don't think that we have to make it lonely. I think we can ask for support. And another person who supported me massively is my mentor. His name is Chuck Schwartz. He actually worked at the solar firm that I was at, and he was a mentor for me there as well. And then he is also an entrepreneur. He has his own company, and he's actually helped me through the process. And the fact that I have someone who is so passionate about what I do and really wants me to succeed, that instills that unparalleled confidence in you. It does. And I really recommend people to look out for mentors. Mentors are important for your journey. There's nothing as self-made, because even those people have taken help. Those people have mentors themselves. Bill Gates has Warren Buffett. So there's so many different, people out there who have mentors. And I really recommend finding yourself a mentor to help you through this journey.
It's huge. You don't have to be alone and do this work. All right. So tell me, what's one lesson that you've learned through your work as a marketing consultant that you think everybody should learn, maybe every business owner? What do they need to know about what you do?
Okay, perfect. So I think one of the biggest lessons I had to learn as a marketer in the last 3 years of my journey is, one, you've got to start simple with your marketing. When I first started out, I was so excited that I was a marketer and I was putting all of these complex marketing strategies, and they backfired massively on me. And when I started to understand why they were backfiring, I understood that all of those complex marketing strategies that you see online, or even hire a consultant like me for, they need a first simple starting point. And that simple starting point is something that I will tell you in this episode. And that is, all you have to do is create paths for people to find you. That's it. Start with that. Don't overcomplicate your systems. Don't overcomplicate your processes. Find where your target audience is. Ask yourself, how do I lead them to me? So if you see them on the internet, how do you get them from the overall general Google space to your website? Or how do you get them on Instagram to view your account? Create paths for people to find you. That is step number one. Keep it as simple as possible. Number two, interlink those paths. That's it. Start with that and then create like a stable foundation of your marketing. And after that, you can always layer it up with complex marketing strategies. And those marketing strategies will not be complex because it will just be a natural next step for the already existing foundation that you have.
I
So,
love
yeah,
that so
that's-
much. Yeah. I love it so much. I think there's too many companies that it's way too
Yes.
complicated to contact a solopreneur because they feel like they have to layer in so many ways.
Yeah,
I think you need to just lean into the fact that I am the owner and the only technician or person
absolutely.
that I am, and I answer the phone and I also pay the bills and I also take a
Yes.
nap
And
from
I'm also
time to
the
time.
janitor.
Yes.
Yes.
Just lean into that because
Yes.
honestly, there's businesses out there, they love to work with people like that. And you don't have to pretend you're some big corporation. I think that's
No.
so huge. So tell me one thing about the marketing job that you do, the marketing field that is unique to you that most marketers don't agree with you about.
Most marketers, I guess a lot of them kind of lean into paid ads before they form a firm foundation of their organic marketing. And I think that's somewhere where I differ in my thought process. I think that you really need to focus on organic marketing first before you invest in your paid ads. And most of the people, most of my clients especially, they don't have that kind of monetary resources to invest in ads right off the bat. And that's also something that I personally don't believe in. I first say that you've got to first find a stable foundation for your marketing, create paths for people to find you, interlink those paths, add a bit of marketing strategy, keep a steady flow first. Whatever it is, your ads should add on to the existing strong marketing that you have and not be the only basis of your marketing. This is, I think, something that I feel very strongly, and I think I differ in my opinion when it comes to other marketing consultants out there.
So can we say that the ads, the pay-per-click is just the caffeine boost to the coffee?
Absolutely. That's the perfect way to put it. I've never thought of it like that. Of
I
course, because
love
I'm not
it.
a coffee drinker, but yes, absolutely. That's the right way to go, because when you don't have a firm foundation and you ask people, like when you put ads out there, you're basically leading them to your website or your Instagram page. But if your Instagram page itself isn't clear about what you're selling, or isn't perfect in terms of its marketing, then you're wasting your money on your ads leading them there. So fix those first before you get to your ads.
I love it. So let's talk a little bit about Prit just on a personal level. You mentioned that you do Bollywood dancing, and
Yes.
I had to look it up because I'm a Midwestern American. We square dance here, which is weird because it's still in a circle. So tell us, what is Bollywood dancing, and how do you use that for your business? I mean, how does that help you with your business? I'm sure because every hobby helps us with our business.
Absolutely. So for me, Bollywood dancing, so there are movies in Bollywood. It's just like Hollywood, but it's Hindi.
Okay.
Hindi is one of the languages in India that is spoken. So all of these movies, this is the first time someone's asked me to explain Bollywood dancing. So forgive me if I'm a little bit, I'm a
It's
little bit slow
okay.
at explaining it. But what I do want to say is, so each of these movies, they have their own songs. Okay, they have their own songs, and each of those songs have their own steps, like dance steps. It's very iconic dance steps for that music. And so Bollywood dancing is basically using all of those, like those musics and the corresponding step, I guess, and then forming your own steps based on that, your own dance sequences. I've been a dancer ever since I can remember. Like, I'm pretty sure my mom has told me that at the age of 2, people would play Michael Jackson songs and I would just start dancing. So for me, I have actually never been professionally trained as a dancer, but I have choreographed multiple dances for my for my college fest, for flash mobs. I've even hosted classes at my university for Bollywood dancing. So
there's a Skillshare coming.
Oh no. Good question. That's a really good question, Nate. I should think about that. I should really think about that. But yeah, so Bollywood. So for me, Bollywood is my first love. I mean, I've been passionate about it ever since I can remember. And I think it was because of that passion for Bollywood that I said, I want to find something like that for my career. And for those of you who may not know, I'm actually an engineer. I completed my engineering degree, and I realized midway that this was not for me, and I did not see myself doing the next 40 years at an engineering job. And it was because I had a baseline for passion that I was able to find that passion for marketing, and then decide during my MBA that, okay, I'm going to be a marketer. This is what I can see the next 40 years of my life panning out. And I think that also translates to other aspects of my life. I like that passion, that level of passion for all regards of my life. And one way that it has helped me is, one, the stress levels of this job is unparalleled. And for me to have an outlet that I don't monetize has been really helpful, because marketing, as much as I'm passionate about it, there's an element of monetization. So it's not a hobby. It is an actual job. And that can get to you sometimes, the stress of it, the complexities of constantly working. So I like that I have an outlet. And not just that, I think that people see me having a life outside of my work. And that also inspires other business owners and other entrepreneurs who follow me to have a life outside of their work as well. And I believe in leading by example. This is one of the things that I have always done throughout my life. And I want business owners and entrepreneurs to have a holistic development and not just their business, because that was a mistake that I first made when I first started out. For the first year, it was only business, business, business. And then I burned out massively in June 2020. And that's when I realized, oops, I've got to have a life outside of this. And so I've slowly begun to have a life outside of my business. And I want to encourage other people to do that as well.
Oh, it's so important just to have that thing, because we are passionate about what we do, and we can get lost in it, but have
Yes,
something to take a
that's
break
true.
from it. It's usually when the best ideas come, actually. So
Yes.
So what is like the underrated tools that you use to do your job that just make your job that much better?
So when you say tools, do you mean resources that I use?
Could be tools, resources, could be a piece of software, could be that amazing camera that you had in the video I watched in your day in the life YouTube. So go check out her channel.
So tons of things. What else? I have a bullet journal. Yes, that is one thing that I highly recommend.
Pen and paper, or is that a piece of software?
Oh no, it's a pen and paper, so it's analog. So I guess I know that you're a tech guy, Nate, but I'm more of an analog person. So I think that's where we differ.
I carry a notebook with me. People look at me weird, but I still like to write the notes for the meeting.
I do that too. I mean, I absolutely, I can't, like, as much as I love, the digital world and all of those things, I think there's something just soothing for me to have a pen and a paper and just write it down. So I have a bullet journal. It really helps me with respect to tracking everything else in my life. Like, I have an anxiety tracker. I have a stress, mood, sleep tracker in that. And then what else? I have, did I say mood tracker? I said mood. And
Mood
then
tracker. That's an
my
analog thing, or is that a digital thing?
Yeah, it's an analog thing. I'm actually going to do a video on that pretty soon.
Like a mood ring.
Oh, no. Like, it's basically, so what I do is I have a graph. So 0 to 10.
Okay.
And then I draw my mood level. I basically draw a line graph. So if my mood today is maybe 8, I mark a point and then I draw a line. And then if my mood tomorrow is maybe 2, I draw a line there. And then I kind of explain to myself why my mood was so low. And it really helps me because I'm, and this is just me, it's my personality, is that I tend to hide whatever I am feeling to the public. And sometimes I can get carried away and not realize what I'm actually feeling. So it's important for me to have that grounding time where I actually check in with myself, because I'm so like, I'm always on the camera, I'm always speaking to people. It's very easy to get carried away in that energy and not truly understand what you are feeling in that moment and not taking the time to process it. So that's just something that works for me with my personality. So
I
yeah,
love that.
highly recommend that though. Highly
Yeah, you can
recommend
really-
tracking your sleep.
Really track your data and see like what you
Absolutely.
do over a period of time. I love data and statistics, so
Yes.
I can get really lost in
Same
that
here.
stuff. So if you could start another business tomorrow, not the Marketing Nomad, what would that business be?
Okay, don't laugh, but it's going to be a cooking channel.
Oh, I would love that. I like to cook and check out new recipes, so and then I
Oh,
eat them.
yeah, so yeah, I think that would be one. Maybe starting a restaurant with my recipes. I grew up in Singapore, so there's a heavy influence of Asian styles in my cooking, Southeast Asian styles in my cooking. And I also love Italian food. So those are, I cook pretty complex stuff.
The first
I would love
Italian
to do that.
Asian restaurant, I'll be there.
Yes.
So
Absolutely, Nate. I think I might actually do that someday, but yeah, that's one thing. Or even, I guess I would, this is something that I will do someday, and that is set up a dance school for underprivileged children. I think that's one thing that's on my list. Once I'm very, very successful, I think I would want to dedicate some efforts there.
that's wonderful. Okay, well, Prit, I really appreciate the time you spent with us here
Thank
on the Journey podcast. I got a couple rapid fire questions at the end.
Okay, let's do it.
Everybody gets these questions, but what are 3 books you would recommend to the audience?
Okay, Atomic Habits, The 5 a.m. Club, and Chillpreneur.
All right, awesome. Atomic Habits, very popular recommendation
Very,
here on the
yes.
Journey. I think if you've been watching for any period of time, you should go read that book. All right, if I'm starting a business today, what is one word of wisdom you would give me?
One word,
You can be 3. You can do a sentence.
just go for it.
Go for it. Okay. Well, I've asked you a lot of questions today, but is there any questions you wish I would have asked you today? And what would that be?
No, I think you pretty much covered it all. You know, we spoke about so many different things, and I only hope that my insights and my tips about my own journey has helped your audience. So yeah, thank you,
Well,
Nate. It's been pretty good.
Absolutely. If you want to learn more about Prit, what's your website and your social media handles? How can we find you?
So I am the Marketing Nomad everywhere. Wherever you go, just Google it. You'll find me everywhere. My podcast name is The Marketing Nomad Show. I'm The Marketing Nomad on Instagram. I am, what else? The Marketing Nomad on my YouTube channel. My website is www.themarketingnomad.co. Though my book will come out pretty soon, and that's under Prithvi Madhukar. That's my
Okay.
full name. Yes.
So go check out The Marketing Nomad. I had a chance to really go through her YouTube profile, lots of interesting videos there. I subscribed, so I'm really fascinated by the things that are there because I love marketing, and I'm gonna try to learn as much as I possibly can without paying a dime because that's the internet. But no,
That's-
if you need
Yeah.
good marketing advice, good marketing strategy, no matter where you are, I think Prit is a great place
Thank you.
for you to invest your resources and go and see. She's got great advice. I'm glad she reached out to me and we got to know each other through social media. Now able to have her featured on the Journey podcast. Thanks so much for being a part of it and joining
Thank
us
you.
in the middle of the night. So I
Thank you,
promise
Nate.
next time we'll do it a little bit earlier so that I'm not making you stay up so late.
And then, no, absolute honor and privilege. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening all the way up until here too.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.